This episode of the All About Pigeons podcast is brought to you by the Rare Breeds Pigeon Club, an international organization dedicated to preserving and promoting the world's rarest pigeon breed. The RBPC works to protect genetic diversity, support fanciers around the globe, and keep these unique breeds from fading into history. You can learn more about their mission, explore their full rare breed list, or become a member by visiting rarepigeons.net. Check them out and help support the future of rare pigeons worldwide. Welcome to the All About Pigeons podcast, brought to you by the All About Pigeons nonprofit organization, which is dedicated to promoting education and promotion of the pigeon hobby. Every week, a listener requests to drive our conversations about all things pigeons. Join me, Philip Fry, as we learn and share stories about these incredible birds and this ancient hobby. Today we're going to be doing a breed-specific episode all about the breed, the Seraphim pigeon. And today we're going to be hearing from David Koster on this breed. So David, thank you so much for coming on and talking with us today.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you.
So really it was you and Ellis were the big ones behind this breed. Can you give us a little bit of background on how this breed got started and what your role in that was?
Yeah, so kind of a lengthy story, but I'll shorten it as much as I can. But Anne, who goes by Anya now, started the Seraphim project in 1986. And it started when she was searching for recessive red genes to create a recessive red satinette classic oriental frill. She managed to find two birds that were carrying the recessive red. And when she put them together, there were two babies that were recessive red satinette. And she thought that when they molted that they would, be beautiful, but they were an unimproved recessive red. And when they molted, they just turned completely white with the very first molt. And she'd never heard of that before. So she took the birds to some friends of hers, including Doc Hollander. She decided then and there that she wanted to create a breed out of this satinette red pigeon that turns white. And so she set about doing decades of careful line breeding and inbreeding to create what is today the modern day seraphim. I do want to say that seraphim is plural, and a single bird of this breed is called a seraph. But if you got many of them, you would say, I have seraphim. Anyway, Anne is an artist. She wanted to do artistic work with this breed. And so she bred them specifically to have a certain stance, to have a point and peak, and a swoop on the back of the head that is different than the classic oriental frill. She, over time, managed to get the feathers to lengthen, which created bigger frills, longer wing flight feathers, longer tail feathers. And she changed the shape and stance of the bird a bit with careful selective breeding so that the bird is longer and has a much more sleek look than the classic oriental frill. I will say I've done a lot of investigation into what the classic oriental frill looks like in Turkey, which is its place of origin, and how they breed the classic oriental frill there. And their birds tend to be longer and not quite so round as the classic oriental frills here in the United States. But in the process of Anya working on this project, she got lots of other people involved. There was a lot of spinoff, including the development and creation of the classic old frill club in the United States, which was a consequence of her trying to create seraphim. I got involved in 2007, long after she'd already gotten the breed approved through the National Pigeon Association in 1995. And I just happened to see a picture of the breed in the standards book one day, and I thought it was the most beautiful bird I'd ever seen. And so I contacted her to see if I could get a pair, and it took a long time, but I finally did. I'm a surgeon and a biologist, and I'm interested in genetics. So I started very seriously trying to breed the bird to what was the standard at that time. And I think that Anya had not had perhaps the greatest experience with other breeders with Seraphim in that she's the one who created the bird. She's got an artistic eye for it. She knows what she wants it to look like. And I was breeding specifically to do that. And so after a while, she took my work pretty seriously. And then we worked together to set up the first Seraphim Club International shows at the Pigeons on the Prairie show in Iowa. Then I wrote the Seraphim Club International website, and over a period of a few years, wrote multiple articles about the breed. And during that time, also, I was able to discover some other probable genetic links and better elucidate what is going on with Seraphim and why they change color the way they do. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
It is a story of genetics too, with it coming out and all the spin-offs that will come with starting a whole new breed in kind of like the modern world, right? So you're talking about the classic fro club being started as well, trying to, hey, there is a difference, line in the sand sort of thing. Like we're this, that's that. You also mentioned that Anya was also an artist, and I did notice that in the standard that she actually drew the standard, right?
Yeah, she painted that standard. She's a great artist.
Yeah, that's pretty neat right there too.
Yeah, the old name of the breed is Hunkari. There's a subcategory of colors in Hunkari that are called Osmani. I know this from some pigeon friend breeders in Turkey who are really serious about Oriental frills. But even there, they don't have a Hunkari or Hunkari Osmani that changes color like the Seraph does. And so I've had conversations with them about what they think is going on. I ultimately concluded that the likely source of the genetics for the color changes from an Uzbek tumbler called a Shinny, Tschinnie, probably crossed into the breed maybe in the 1800s. And that's based on conversation that I had with a pigeon specialist in Germany. So yeah, it's the color genetics are complicated, but I would also say, and there's been some discussion about this, argument about whether or not Seraphim are just white classic Oriental frills. And I want to say that there are white classic Oriental frills in Turkey that have a completely different genetic reason for being white. This is the only breed that has this particular genetic reason for being white. And the other thing is that because of Anya's selective breeding program, and then ultimately mine, two of us working together, that we've changed the form of the bird enough that you can tell immediately that it's not a classic Oriental frill, even though it has the same feather ornamentation. The structure of the bird is different, and how the ornamentation is represented is different.
Right. Yeah, you can see that through the form. Yeah. And what about the molt? Is there any color change at all? Is it pure white pre-molt? I mean, from the beginning of the molt to the after molt, is it always a pure white bird?
So the juveniles look like recessive red satinette pigeons. So the wing shields are red, the tails are red, and then the body is white, just like a satinette classic Oriental frill. The thing is that the color pattern can be anything. It could be spread red, could be lace wing, lace tail, band tail. So you'll see a variety of patterns in the wing shield and tail. But when they start losing these baby feathers or juvenile feathers, the new feathers that come in are immediately white. And the new feathers are typically about 2 inches longer than the original. So the bird really changes shape. And I think the effect of their hormones or estrogen or testosterone causes a sudden sort of change in the shape of the skull, change in the overall size of the bird. I think with Seraphim in particular, you really cannot tell how good the bird is for show quality purposes until it has completed its first molt and grown into adulthood. I've seen some that look kind of scrawny when they're little, then they turn out to be just stunning adults. So you can't, if you're breeding toward the show, you can't get rid of birds that you think at first are maybe not so great because they change.
It's the history and how this breed came about that I think is really fascinating, and the genetics of it, and getting heavy on that side of it. But let's get into the raising, breeding, and showing side of it as well here too. They do have the shorter beak, and they're not clean legged. They do have the feathered feet. So when it comes to rearing young, how do they do as far as that goes? Are they pretty good at fertility and raising their own young?
Yeah, their fertility is great, although by definition all seraphim are from the same source, so they're all inbred. But as long as people are carefully selecting their best birds, that doesn't seem to matter.
Are they pretty good about rearing their own young, or do they require foster?
Yeah, so this has been exasperating with this breed. Some pairs are really good parents and really good feeders, and then others will only feed and raise one baby. They'll let the second one perish. And occasionally you'll see birds that will hatch the young and then just ignore them. And this has been a bit of a bugaboo that we've been trying to work out by only using the birds that feed the best, because of course this too is a genetic trait. But as long as they feed the babies, they will do fine. I will say that the babies tend to leave the nest early, usually at about 3 weeks, and go to the floor. The male will continue feeding them there while the hen starts a new clutch. The babies are subsequently smaller than you would expect them to be for other pigeons at the same age. And I don't know why they do this exactly, but that's how they behave. I generally recommend that people have them, that they have some plan in mind about how they're going to deal with this, because if you've got fosters, it's easy enough to take one of the eggs and put it under foster parents or put both. What I've always done is take the second baby, if I have a pair that I know won't feed the second baby, and I hand raise it. I usually leave it with the parents for at least 2 days because I want them to get some crop milk so they get the right bacterial population in their crop. But then I just use a baby bird formula that you use for parrots and that sort of thing, and raise them with a syringe if it comes to that.
So really, in some ways, you're still working with this breed to try to get them to be better as far as raising up their own young. You're selectively breeding out the ones that you want to feed and raise their own.
Yeah, yeah. I think these are birds for an experienced breeder. I don't think they're a great bird for a beginner, although I was sort of a beginner when I got them. But I think most people would find it too cumbersome. They want their birds to just, lay their eggs, raise their babies, and not have to think about it. But you do have to think about it with these birds.
You just like the challenge right off the bat, huh?
Yeah, well, that's the story of my life. So yeah, that's okay. Right now I have a baby that I hand raised, and I got little movies about them on Instagram, and I didn't know they tend to be a little on the wild side too. They startle easily, and if you try to reach into a nest, they'll just jump off. They won't fight like a lot of pigeons will and cling to the nest. And that startle response has been something that Anne really wanted to breed out of them. And I'm working with another guy up in New Hampshire right now. I sent him some of my calmest birds for him to work with to see if he can work on breeding out that wildness that occasionally crops up. But what I have found is if I raise them by hand exclusively, they become extremely docile and very tame and unafraid. But I'm not sure that's always such a great thing unless you just want a pet.
How many breeders do you think are out there right now?
Well, I've got 34 members on the Facebook Seraphim page, but many of them are just interested in Seraphim and they don't raise them because they can't find any. They are a rare breed, and I think because of some of the intricacies of raising them, that they're not the most popular, even though they're so beautiful. So I couldn't say how many breeders there are out there, but of serious breeders, I know probably fewer than 10 besides myself. And we do need more people involved with the breed that are serious about breeding toward the show standard. And usually when I sell them, or give them away, I'm looking for people that are serious about it, as opposed to someone that just wants a pet or something pretty in their aviary.
Right. And are they only in the States? Do you know of anybody that's ever exported them?
Well, somebody just joined our group who's from Australia who has what appear to be Seraphim, and I don't know how they would have gotten there. Anya sent some to Belgium and France to some friends of hers there back in the mid 90s. And I'm in contact with one of those people, but they seem to have lost their flock over time. And also, I don't know what has happened with them in regard to keeping up with the American breeding standard either. So I really don't know where else they might be. I've sent them to Hawaii and to all the contiguous United States. And I used to breed a lot of them. But now, since I'm retired, I've actually cut back quite a lot.
How many seraphims do you have right now?
3.
Oh, wow, okay.
I got one older pair, and I got this youngster. But I just moved from Iowa to Connecticut, and I left my 6 best birds back there with a friend to keep for me until I had a place ready for them. But unfortunately, a varmint got into his aviary or loft and killed all of them. And so I've had to start over by contacting some other breeders that I've sold birds to see what they have, and managed to get a half a dozen back. And then I bred those over the summer, and then I've been giving them away. So to some new serious breeders that I've met out here on the East Coast. So now I'm just down to 3 myself.
That's usually what
But
happens when you're the person who's really trying to promote the breed. I mean, that's pretty
yeah,
common.
I've been shocked at when I've seen some of the birds that I have given away or sold later, that I thought, okay, I'll keep my best ones, and I'm going to send these that are, great, but not as perfect as the ones that I am keeping for myself.
Uh-huh.
But then I find out that in fact some of those birds have turned into just exceptionally beautiful birds, which is
Nice.
what we want. If you're going to
Right.
send birds, they should all be high quality birds, and with the potential for having offspring that are, super duper show quality. And that's what I've always done.
What are some of the common faults that you would say that still need to be worked on in this breed overall?
It's very difficult to get the mane to not have a break in it at the base of the skull. Although I feel like it's unusual for my birds to have that problem anymore. But that's a difficult one. And when you think about the feather ornamentation, and since the bird is white, the only thing you can look at is structure of the physical structure of the bird, and then the quality of the feather ornamentation. So you want to have a really big frill, and it's got to be long. And if you accidentally start breeding birds with shorter or smaller frills, that's really hard to get rid of and to improve on that. The feet are supposed to be grouse feathered, so very tiny feathers on the feet and very delicate. But you have to watch that too, because if you don't make sure that all your birds have properly feathered toes, then you can run into a problem there. The skull is something that Anya and I worked on extensively for about a dozen years. And the skull of the bird today is larger than it was in the past. The beak is way more downturned. So the head has a round arc from the tip of the beak over the top of the skull. And we also increased the skull height above the eye to make a rounder skull. That was hard. and it's hard to maintain. And if you don't have that trait in your flock, I think it would take years and years and years of careful selective breeding to try to get it. It'd be a lot easier to introduce a seraph that already has that trait, breed that in, because I think it comes from multiple genetic points. So the skull size, the mane, and then the swoop. The swoop has to be low and deep, and then the peak is supposed to be a needle point. Boy, it's hard to get a needle point peak, but I've seen some birds with that. Oh my gosh, they're so beautiful. So it's really all about getting the feather pattern exactly right on top of a bird that has the right physical stance and structure. And there are small things, even like the butt of the wings are supposed to be held out from the chest. So it looks like they're pushing their chest forward and the wings are kind of out at the shoulder. And classic oriental frills tend to tuck the butt of the wings in. So the seraph always looks like it's about to take off flying because of the way it holds the wing butts. So that's also a trait that you have to watch for. So anyway, the bottom line is there are multiple structural traits that have to be monitored constantly. And if you lose sight of one of them, then you end up with birds that aren't as good as you wish you had.
The website itself is a great resource. So you also mentioned there is a Facebook. What's is the Facebook just the Seraphim Club?
It's the Seraphim Club International Facebook group is the name of it. So if people want to join up with other breeders and other people who are interested in the breed, that's really the place to do it. The Seraphim Club itself is hard to hold together cohesively. And when I was in Iowa, and we had several breeders in Iowa and Minnesota and Kansas, we could always meet at the December big show and talk and so forth and share birds, whatnot. But that's just really hard to maintain physically. And so I decided that in addition to having the Seraphim Club International website as an encyclopedic source of information, that we needed a place where people could talk about their birds or show pictures of their birds or ask questions about a structural thing or get advice. And so I created this Facebook group for that purpose. And I know that several people have found other breeders on that site, people that have young birds that for sale. So it's proven to be quite useful already, and I'm glad that I've changed that up.
Excellent. Yeah, and that website is seraphimclubinternational.com, and that is got a lot of information you can spend a lot of time going through, especially if you click on the archive section. There's
Yeah.
tons of articles on there, just really getting into very specific topics on this breed. But yeah, like you were saying too, the Facebook group, that's very active. You can jump into that as well. And yeah, if you have any interest in this breed at all, I mean, it is a very beautiful and unique. It's got really interesting history behind it, but it's a beautiful bird, beautiful breed, something really good to get behind too. Are you going to be showing any birds at the Grand National coming up?
I have never been to a Grand National, and I have wanted to go for the past decade and a half. But with my career, I was just too busy. And then I retired, and then we moved, and now we're trying to fix our house. So it's just been one thing after another. So I haven't gone. But to my knowledge, very few, if any, seraphim have been shown at the Grand National in the past several years because they should have been showing up in the catalog after the show.
Yep.
They are shown in the rare breeds section
Right.
unless the Seraphim Club International sanctions a show within the Grand National. It still would be a rare breed, but if the Seraphim Club sanctions a meet, you have to have a certain number of birds, a certain number of people showing the birds, and the Seraphim Club can then award trophies and do all of that. But yeah, I've been hoping to see some Seraphim at that show all these years, but never have. So the old pair that I have right now, that's too old to breed, is stunningly beautiful. And they're a pair of birds that I had years ago, and I really should take them to the show because they show how much the breed has changed in the past couple of decades. And then I got this young tame pet bird that is the product of two of the best birds that I had this year. And I think this little thing is going to be absolutely outstanding as well. So I got three I could take, but whether or not I get that accomplished remains to be seen.
Oh yeah, I'm sure the Rare Breeds Club would be happy to have you show them under those guys. They have a lot of the rare breeds being shown out there under the Rare Breeds Club. So, and that'd be a good spot, let people actually see them in person. There's a lot of breeds that, even look beautiful in the standard, and when people actually see a bird like that in person,
Yeah.
it's something else. Someone actually, one of the Arizona Pigeon Club members brought a Seraphim to one of our club shows, and that was the first time I ever saw one, and it was completely out of left field for me to see one of those, and it's definitely striking to see in person.
They're very delicate looking birds.
Mhm.
They're very fancy,
Yeah, yeah.
and but that's Anne's eye, that's her artistic eye at work. She really hit this one out of the park, I think.
Well, it's a beautiful bird, and if anybody wants to get behind it and help that breed out, check out their website, check out their Facebook. David, really appreciate you coming on, sharing everything and the history about this bird as well. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you.
This episode of the All About Pigeons podcast is brought to you by the Rare Breeds Pigeon Club, an international organization dedicated to preserving and promoting the world's rarest pigeon breed. The RBPC works to protect genetic diversity, support fanciers around the globe, and keep these unique breeds from fading into history. You can learn more about their mission, explore their full rare breed list, or become a member by visiting rarepigeons.net. Check them out and help support the future of rare pigeons worldwide. Thank you for listening to another ad-free, listener-requested episode of the All About Pigeons podcast. If you like the show and want to help it keep it going, as well as supporting your other pigeon promotional work, head to the website PigeonPod, that's pigeonpod.com. You can make a donation there. If you can't make a donation today, support the show by giving us a good 5-star review wherever you're listening to us at right now. That really helps the podcast and helps the algorithm get us out there to other people who might not know about Pigeon Podcast. If you have any episode requests, upcoming pigeon shows, competition results, or you want to be a guest on the show and just talk about some pigeons, or you have a shout out for a friend, shoot us an email at staff@pigeonpod.com. Thanks again for listening. We really appreciate your support. And remember, together the hobby thrives. Support each other and enjoy your pigeons.